In Rajasthan, a 22-year-old NEET aspirant, Pradeep Meghwal, died by suicide after the NEET UG 2026 exam was cancelled over paper leak allegations. According to reports, his family believed he had done well and was expecting around 650 marks. There are some stories that begin with a number, and then, before you even understand the number, you realize you are looking at a life that has been shaken apart. In Rajasthan, a 22-year-old NEET aspirant, Pradeep Meghwal, died by suicide after the NEET UG 2026 exam was cancelled over paper leak allegations. According to reports, his family believed he had done well and was expecting around 650 marks. His father said they had hoped this would finally be the year he would get a medical seat. Instead, the uncertainty that followed the cancellation pushed him into deep distress. That is where this story begins. Not with a press release, not with a leak, not with a court notice. It begins with a student who did what this system asked him to do. He studied, he waited, he carried the weight of a dream that many families in India know too well. And then the ground moved under his feet. Because when an exam is treated like the only gate to dignity, a failure in that exam is never just administrative. It becomes personal, it becomes emotional, and sometimes it becomes fatal. NEET UG 2026 was supposed to be a high-stakes test. Yes, but also a predictable one. A national exam is supposed to give students one basic thing: trust. Trust that the paper is secure. Trust that the process is fair. Trust that efforts still matter. But this time, the story moved in the opposite direction. Telegram and WhatsApp chatter began circulating possible leaks, and the NTA initially dismissed those claims as fake or misleading. Then, the investigation widened. The CBI said the leak trail ran through an NTA-linked paper setting process, through hard copies, and then into WhatsApp and Telegram circulation before reaching candidates. The names that matter now are not vague names. They are specific. Reporting identifies Manisha Gurunath Mandhare, a senior botany teacher from Pune, and P.V. Kulkarni, a retired chemistry lecturer from Latur. Both were reportedly appointed by NTA as experts on the NEET UG 2026 paper setting panel, with Mandhare having direct access to botany and zoology, and Kulkarni to chemistry. The CBI has been tracing how questions were allegedly shared through a chain of intermediaries, with Mandhare and Kulkarni forming part of that chain. So, this was not just a random telegram humor. It was a leak story that appears to have begun inside the system itself. The very people trusted to build this exam may have been the ones who broke it. Then, there is the money. India Today reported that a Nasik student, Shubham Khairnar, allegedly paid Rs 10 lakh for a leaked guest paper and later passed it on for an even higher sum. Other reports describe the leak network as commercial and multi-layered. Papers were being sold for anywhere between 10 lakh rupees to 25 lakhs, depending on the chain and location. So, the leak was not only an act of sabotage, it was also a market. And that matters because once a paper becomes a commodity, students stop being learners and start becoming customers in a black economy of desperation. Those who could afford to pay entered a race with a shorter track. Those who could not were left running the full distance, honestly, against people who had already seen the finish line. This is where the story becomes bigger than NEET 2026. Because there is not the first time the NTA has been called into question. In 2024, the Supreme Court issued notice to the center and the NTA over NEET UG paper leak allegations, saying the court needed answers. This is not a small procedural issue. This is the country's highest court saying the sanctity of the exam needed to be explained. In the same year, the UGC NET was cancelled after leak allegations linked to darknet circulation. NEET PG was postponed indefinitely just days before it was scheduled, affecting nearly 2 lakh PG medical aspirants. The government set up a high-level committee under former ISRO chief K. Radhakrishnan to review the NTA's functioning. That committee's recommendations have been largely discussed but incompletely implemented. So when people say this time too, they are not being dramatic. They are naming a pattern. A repeated institutional failure is still a failure. And when the institution is the one responsible for national entrance exams, the cost is enormous. The NTA was created in 2017 to be a specialized independent body that would handle national testing with professionalism and consistency. That was the promise. What have been delivered instead are a string of controversies, last-minute cancellations, and a crisis of public confidence that no press release has been able to reverse. To understand what NEET does to students, you have to understand what India built around it. Kota, a city in Rajasthan, has become the most visible symbol of this system. Every year, nearly 2 lakh students move to Kota, most of them teenagers, many of them from small towns and villages to attend coaching institutes that promise to crack JEE and NEET. They live in hostels, attend classes from 6 in the morning to 10 at night, and are evaluated in weekly and monthly tests that rank them against each other constantly. The coaching industry in Kota is estimated to be worth over 3,000 crores annually. Institutes like Allen, Resonance, and Vibrant Academy involve hundreds of thousands of students across their branches. Fees range from 1 lakh rupees to 3 lakhs per year, not including rent, food, and study materials. Families from Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, and Rajasthan take loans and sell land to send their children here. And the pressure inside these coaching centers is extraordinary. Students describe schedules with no room for error, environments where a bad mock test score can mean being moved to a lower batch, and a culture where identity is entirely tied to rank. The concept of a weekend does not really exist. Failure is visible, public, and constant. Between 2011 and 2023, over 100 students died by suicide in Kota. The local administration installed nets under hostel balconies. Institutes introduced happiness rooms, but the structural pressure, the reason students were there, the reason families had sacrificed so much, the reason there was no plan B, was never dismantled. And then, when the exam itself is cancelled or compromised, all of that sacrifice is suddenly suspended in midair. The student has nothing to show for it. No result, no clarity, no next step that feels real. Almost immediately after the NEET UG 2026 re-exam was announced, coaching institutes launched new crash courses and special batches. Akash introduced Rs 99 victory badge for RE-NEET students. On paper, it looks like a supportive measure. In reality, it reveals something. It reveals something important about how this industry works. When fear rises, it sells reassurance. When students panic, it sells structure. When the system fails, it sells another batch. This is not just about one institute. It is about a broader ecosystem that profits from uncertainty. Coaching hubs survive by intensifying the idea that merit is scarce and survival requires constant purchase of this series, doubt sessions, crash courses, and hope itself. They do not merely respond to student anxiety, they help manufacture it. Now, we need to talk about merit. Merit in India is often spoken about as if it is pure and neutral, as if a student's score reflects only their intelligence and hard work, untouched by circumstances. But in practice, merit is deeply unequal. Consider what shapes a NEET score. It is not just biology and chemistry knowledge. It is access to quality schooling, and rural government schools rarely match private urban institutions in resources or teaching quality. It is the ability to afford coaching, which can cost upward of rupees 2 to 3 lakhs per year. It is having a study space at home, internet access for mock tests, parents who can take time off to manage the logistics of preparation. It is often the language you were educated in, because NEET had historically favored CBSE aligned syllabi over state board curricula, which has repeatedly disadvantaged students from Tamil Nadu, Kerala, and other states with strong but different academic traditions. Tamil Nadu has for years pushed back against NEET on exactly this ground, arguing that the exam does not measure raw ability but proximity to a specific kind of preparation. The state government has cited data showing that students from government schools who study in Tamil without access to coaching constantly underperform despite being academically capable. This is not a coincidence, it is a design flaw. So, when we celebrate merit without asking who gets access to it, we turn a social advantage into a moral label. We look at a student who scored 650 and call them deserving. We look at a student who scored 400 and imply they simply did not try hard enough. We erase the distance between the starting lines. This is why these exam crises hurt so much. They do not just expose corruption, they expose the lie that the system is clean race. It is not. It is a race where some students start far ahead, some are pushed into a treadmill, and some are told to keep running even when the track is broken. We often talk about exam scandals as if they are mainly about governance. But the first place they land is the student's mind. NEET aspirants spend years living inside one result. Their daily routine is built around it. Their family budget is built around it. Their self-image is built around it. Many of them stop imagining multiple futures because they are told there is only one legitimate future, medical college. Everything else, other careers, other ambitions, other paths, is treated as backups, as failures, as settling. So, when the exam is cancelled or when the process becomes uncertain, the student does not just lose a date on the calendar, they lose stability, they lose sleep, they lose confidence in the fairness of the world around them. The psychological literature on exam stress in India documents anxiety, depression, sleep disorders, and identity crisis among NEET aspirants at alarming rates. A 2023 study published in the Indian Journal of Psychiatry found that nearly 40% of medical entrance aspirants surveyed reported symptoms consistent with anxiety disorders, and over 20% reported depressive symptoms. These are not minor side effects. They are the emotional cost of a system that has made one exam the measure of a person's entire worth. And this is the cruel irony at the heart of the NEET crisis. The exam was designed to create fairness, one national standard to replace dozens of state-level tests that were themselves prone to corruption and inconsistency. But in its implementation, it has created a new kind of unfairness. It has concentrated pressure into a single point, made failure catastrophic, and outsourced the burden of integrity to an institution that had repeatedly shown it cannot carry it. The pressure is not academic, it is social and emotional. It is wrapped into the idea that success means moral worth and failure means personal inadequacy. That is a cruel way to build an education system. And it is an even crueler way to respond to students when the system itself fails. At this point, the question is not only what went wrong, it is what the state owes to the students who were made to carry the consequence. The government has spoken for years about transparency, reforms, and exam integrity. But when leaks keep surfacing, when re-exams become necessary, when courts intervene, and when families are left in mourning, these promises begin to sound thin. The Education Ministry and NTA have a duty here that goes far beyond issuing statements. They have to make students believe again that efforts will not be cancelled by negligence. They have to rebuild trust, not just deny blame. India's education system needs to seriously reconsider what it is doing when it funnels millions of students into a single exam and tells them their future lives on one day's performance. Medical education matters, students matters, but the current system does not produce standards. It produces trauma. inequality, and a thriving industry of exploitation built on the backs of exhausted teenagers. Because right now, the message many students are receiving is brutal. Study for years, pay whatever it costs, surrender your youth to the exam, and still be ready for the system to fail you. This is not education. That is abandonment. Pradeep Meghwal's death should not be treated as just another unfortunate headline. It should be treated as a warning that a broken exam system can become a broken life, a warning that institutional failure does not stay inside the institution. It travels into bedrooms, coaching centers, family homes, and finally into the minds of students who have nowhere else to place their pain. NEET should be a test of knowledge, not a test of endurance against chaos. But when the body meant to protect the exam cannot protect the exam, the real question becomes simple. How many more students have to pay for the failure of the system before the system itself is held accountable?